Welcome back to another special edition of the MaxCoverage podcast. I'm Kiefer Gazar. With me, as always, is Max from MaxCoverage.
How are you doing?
And we have a special guest today.
Very.
This is a man that was the strength and conditioning assistant for the Jacksonville Jaguars from 2017 to 2020. A man who survived 2 tours to Afghanistan. He was airborne. He earned a Purple Heart. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Sean Karpf to the show.
Woo!
Hey, Sean, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate it.
Hey, I appreciate you guys bringing me on the show.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I don't know if I can live up to that introduction, but I'm gonna try.
Oh, I know you
already
can.
did, man.
I know you
already
can.
did.
And for anybody that doesn't know, I know Sean can live up to this because we recently went to Topgolf together, and Sean has a prosthetic leg that we'll let him tell you about himself. But he took that leg and he was nailing these golf balls, man. The whole bay was going crazy. He got like 30 points off of hitting the balls from his leg. So this is a man that can golf.
Hey, I know my way around balls.
Indeed,
He's probably better than me with, swinging. I suck at golf, bro.
Oh, I know. I've seen
Terrible. Oh,
But
thanks, man.
let's give everybody just a picture of who you are, Sean. Why don't you tell us how you first got into the NFL and about your time in Afghanistan?
So you want me to start with the Afghanistan part?
Yeah, and how it led to you going.
So, 2007, joined the military, deployed, like you said, twice to Kandahar, Afghanistan. 2 brutal deployments. On the second deployment, 2012, we were on a dismounted patrol, walking in between 2 wadis, which are river systems in Afghanistan, and we were on a small path, maybe twice the size of this room, and we saw guys running on a rooftop, probably 300 meters from where we were. So they called me up on the radio, and I'm a weapons squad leader. And they say, hey, can you bring your gun team up to the front? We want you to pull security and, focus on these guys that we see running on this rooftop. So I look back to all the RTO, the medic, they all fell under me as a weapons squad leader. So I'm like, hey, we're going to go up to the front. Brought the gun. We start making our way. This whole path has been swept with the minesweeper already. And like I said, we were in the back of the formation. So we're walking towards the front. And I stepped on the pressure plate. IED went off.
Oh, shit.
Immediately, like, it wasn't like anything you see in the movies where you go flying. Like, the bomb went off, and I was in the crater. Like, I could hear people screaming my name, and I remember tasting chemicals, and I couldn't see anything. And then, like, as the cloud of dust went, started to dissipate, and I looked down, and I saw my leg. It was still attached, but it was just, a lot of blood, and my first thought was, like, get out of this crater. And so I started pushing myself away from the crater. As I was pushing myself, I didn't know if that was a smaller IED sitting on top of a bigger one, and they were waiting for guys to rush over to help me to set off the second one. And so I started pushing myself out, and as I was doing that, the medic came running over, helped pull me out, start putting the tourniquet on, tighten down the tourniquet all the way. And our medics weren't allowed to carry any morphine or anything, so basically gave me like a pill pack for infections. So ate the pills. Remember grabbing somebody else's Camelback, getting some water in me, and like I said, at this time, all I had was a tourniquet on, and my leg was like, you could see bones sticking out, and you could see the blood on my pants and the boots, and so they cut the boot off. And then they start checking this leg. I had shrapnel on this leg, but it wasn't, obviously as bad as this one. But so they put me on a litter and strapped me down on a litter. And then 4 guys, like I said, that path was so short and narrow that the medevac couldn't come in and land on the path. So they had to get me to the other side of one of the rivers. It was like a small... almost like a ditch here in Florida, but and so they had to get me to the other side so the medevac could come in and land. So they picked probably the 4 smallest guys in this patrol to come grab me and pick me up and take me to the other side. And I just remember looking at them and looking at that water and saying, if you drop me in this water, I'm gonna kill you. And so basically, when they were carrying me over, and they did a great job of not dropping me in the disgusting water, but I held the injured leg with my other foot so it wouldn't move back and forth, because at this time I didn't have a splint on or anything, and so I was just trying to keep the bone from moving. Because it was just sitting there poking out of my skin. And so they get me to the other side, and then they decide that they're going to put because they're waiting for the medevac to come in and land to grab me. And so they start putting the splint on my leg. And this is like 10 minutes later after it happened. So all that adrenaline, everything wore off. That's when the pain started setting in. And then they hooked me up with a IV, so that way when I got into the medevac, they could start the morphine drip on me. And so we see the medevac coming in to land. They pop smoke, throw it out, and the medevac comes in and starts landing. As soon as it touched down and the guys are running me over to the medevac, the guys that were on that rooftop opened up with a PKM automatic machine gun, started shooting at the helicopter. And so they basically waited for that medevac to come in and land so they could shoot the helicopter. So medevac picks up and obviously can't sit there, so it picks up and leaves. And now the 4 guys and a couple other people that brought me over to the other side of the river are now in a firefight with guys on the roof. And I remember I'm yelling out commands like I'm still, and I'm strapped to a litter, so I can't see anything. And I'm sitting there yelling out commands to my gunner, and luckily he didn't listen to me because the medevac was right there when I was yelling like what he was supposed to be doing. But so the medevac leaves, the guys are in a firefight 5 to 10 minutes, and then I hear a small helicopter come through, might have been a Kyle or something, come through and do a couple gun runs on the building, and then the medevac came in shortly after and landed, and doors open. The guys run me over there, put me in the medevac, and there's already somebody else in there, blood everywhere all over the medevac. And I just remember the morphine drip start. And
how did that hit? Like, because I mean, morphine is like as strong as it gets. And I've had some for way less significant injuries, and they will completely make you forget that you were ever hurt. Like, how does it feel when you have such a significant injury like that and they give you morphine? Like, do you still feel it, or were you feeling good at that point once you got that kicked into your bloodstream?
It was like it seemed like it was immediate. Like it was like the drip started, and next thing I know, I heard every rotation of the blades of the medevac
slowly.
And I was like, oh yeah. But they took me to Kandahar airfield, and then later they moved me to Bagram. And at first I had a halo system, like they were going to save my leg. So they had all these rods going through my my leg that was pretty mangled up. Went to Landstuhl, Germany, and then from there was taken to Walter Reed. And then a week of being at Walter Reed, the doctor came in and said, hey, look, the foot is severely injured. Like I was missing probably half of the bottom of it. So they were like, you can either, live in pain and not be able to run and, do the things that you want to do, or we could amputate the leg and you can live, a life that you want to live. And so they gave us, time to think about, me and my wife. So I just remember the doctor leaving and sitting there talking to my wife and like, should we go through this? Listen to the doctors, or I don't want to cut my leg off, but if they're telling me I need to. So the next day I had somebody come into my room that was a below knee amputee that like kind of show me different prosthetics, and he's like, yeah, I'm training for the Paralympics and I'm doing this and this.
Oh, wow.
And, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh.
And then I told my wife, I said, you know, is it okay if we go through this? And, you know, and so we wound up amputating the leg, and 15 months later, I left Walter Reed. You know, I was waiting for the med board process to finish and everything, but left Walter Reed, came back home to Jacksonville in 2013 and started a program with Wounded Warrior Project. You do 2 semesters of school, and then you do an internship with a local business in Jacksonville. Well, I heard from another guy, Andrew Coughlin, that works for Wounded Warrior Project, that he was in the video department at the Jags for his internship. So I was like, well, I want to do it with the Jags. And
That's awesome.
so
And you grew up a Jaguars fan, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
So 2014 was my first internship with the Jags, and I started off doing IT, ticket sales, like a few different jobs inside like the office side.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, look, I like being in this building, but I want to be on the football side. Like, so is there any way I can help, you know, with water, do whatever? So they had me go over, and I got to do, like, I would do ticket sales in the morning, and I would help those guys like packaging the teal bucks and put them in the
coupons.
and I would do that in the morning, and then jump over to practice and help the athletic trainers run water around, break down the practice, dumping the ice, getting the stuff ready for the next day. Then I would go, you know, over with the strength and conditioning and help them clean up the weight room. So I did a little bit of everything in 14. And Thomas Linsky, the head strength coach of the Jags, while I was there, said, hey, look, if you decide that you want to do this for school, let me know, and we'll bring you back on as a strength and conditioning intern, like full time. That's all you're going to do. And so I went to JU for my bachelor's, and for exercise science, kinesiology. And so that's when I came back in 17 as a strength and conditioning intern. And I remember, you know, that was the year we played in the AFC Championship against the Patriots.
Right.
Yeah.
And when we lost, like, I was sending everybody, you know, that was a part, like all the other strength and conditioning associates, and I was like, thank you so much for everything this year. I had a great time, and like I'm all getting teary eyed because I'm like, oh, my time's done now, and
Right.
And so the next day I come into the building, and I'm saying bye to some of the players, and like I see Dave Caldwell, and he's like, hey, before you get all emotional on me, because he could see it in my face, like I knew I was done.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's like, before you get all emotional, Coach Coughlin wants to, you know, come to his office. So I followed Dave Caldwell into Coach Coughlin's office, and Dave Caldwell shuts the door. And I'm like, oh, no.
Pat you on the back. Hey, what's going on?
And so, you know, he shuts the door, and Coach Coughlin's like, look, I've watched you all year. I've seen how the players interact with you. I see how hard you work. What do you think about coming on as a full-time strength and conditioning? Here's your salary. Here, you know, and I'm just like, what?
Blown away.
And
Just starstruck.
yeah, and so obviously I decided to, you know, stay there as a strength and conditioning coach, and
The rest is history. Yeah.
the rest
That's
is
awesome,
history.
man.
How many associates is under the strength and conditioning coach?
So obviously it depends team to team, and we had me, I was the fourth.
Okay.
And then there was two other strength and conditioning associates, and then the head strength coach. So that's four. And then we would have 2 interns with us, like a intern that, like the intern would be from a college or whatever, but the other intern, usually we had somebody that had played in the NFL or was in between jobs that we'd bring on, so it was a more experienced intern.
Okay.
But so 6 total, and then we'd have like a bridge between the athletic trainers and the strength staff. That was usually a physical therapist, but would work with us and the athletic trainers. So I mean, obviously every team is different, and then there's some teams that only have like a couple, and
Okay.
and it's a little bit different with the NFL because you have, you write their programs and everything, but it's not like you don't have the amount of guys that you're going to see in college all in the weight room at the same time. So in the college level, you'll have a ton of, strength and conditioning coaches compared to the NFL.
Right. There's more players on the team.
Yeah. You're talking about.
They got like 100, I'm pretty sure, and like only like half dress.
Right. And so in the NFL, we have like lifting blocks. So depending on how the strength and conditioning coach wants to set it up, he will decide like, okay, this many guys are in this block. And obviously that last year that I was there was the COVID year, and it was horrible as far as like having to try to keep everybody 6 feet apart.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I can only imagine the headache that is.
Yeah, we were in between every set, every rep.
Yeah.
They still have it there actually, like when we were there that first year of the COVID, like they had a tent outside the weight room that they had like air condition and everything, and like so we'd have one group in the tent for training camp, one group in the tent, and then the other group was in the weight room, and then the next day they would flip flop. So
that's cool. So you said you asked HR about going to the football side, right?
Right.
Because Tom actually did an interview about you one time, and he said that basically like when he first told you like, hey, we'll pick you for this internship, that like he would just always see you in the weight room and you just kind of like go over there. One, did you start doing that before you asked HR? And also, like, can anybody do that? Like, if you work for the Jaguars, you can, like, do you have access to walk down to, like, where the players work out and everything like that? Or for you, was it more of, like, an exception type of thing?
So before COVID happened, in the evening, I think it was, like, 5:30 or 5, something like that, the staff could, like, the office staff could come use the weight room. And I know it kind of changed that last year where... No.
Yeah, probably nobody.
Yeah, so they just all the NFL rules and
protocols.
Yeah, so I would, after work, I would just go over there and lift and do whatever. But I think like walking in that building, like there's only one person with a prosthetic walking around, and so like everybody knew me. Mm-hmm. But I knew everybody like face, and so people would say, "Hey, Sean," I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?"
I know exactly what you're saying, man. That's
and I'm like, I know your face, but I don't know your name.
That's great, man.
That's
funny. Great. So while you were a strength and conditioning assistant, what were your like day-to-day routine for like during the season versus like when the players aren't there? Like, what do you guys do while they're not there during the off season?
There's not much time that the players aren't there because there's always
the OTAs and everything.
Well, you got injured guys.
Still
and
rehabbing.
Then there's a lot. Like obviously, when the season ends, we tell all the players, "Hey, go take 2-3 weeks.
Rest.
At least go take a couple weeks." And go enjoy your vacation,
Mm-hmm.
go do that and stuff. And if you want to come back, you can come back. And but so during that time, each strength and conditioning coach will take like turns, a couple weeks off, week here, week there. But so usually in the off season we'd have like 2 weeks off. But there was always somebody staying back, whether it was injury or
Just getting the work in.
and like our head strength coach was all about being there at all times. So it wasn't like, when we like the off season, it didn't matter. Like we were there from 6:37 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. So it was like nothing really changed except for, some days we got to get off a little bit earlier, but.
What's your like day-to-day role like during the season? Like what were you doing specifically?
During the season, so each strength coach would have, we'd have 7 full racks. So you'd have the racks all the way down the weight room. So when guys come in, we'd break them up into like 3 or 4 different groups to start off with, to do like strength prep and stuff, and like just get their muscles activated. And so they would, like I would take one of the groups, and then like I'm doing this, and the other 3 guys are doing something else to get them ready for the actual workout. And a lot of times our strength prep was longer than the actual workout itself, just get everything activated. And so once the lift group started, then now depending on how many guys you had, if you had 12 to 16 guys, you would break those guys up to each strength coach. So I may take 3 or 4 guys, and I'm responsible for making sure that the weights that they're supposed to be lifting are being lifted, whether on the bench or squat. Those are your main 2 lifts that we do with the guys, variations of each, but like my job is to make sure they're hitting their numbers, and to make sure that they're doing it in a safe manner. And I'm really sitting there watching technique, and if I see somebody doing something, if they're benching and their butt's coming off the
cheating themselves,
right? So I'm just there like guiding them really. And
Okay.
Did you ever have any situations where like I honestly you probably didn't, but did you ever have any situations where you had a guy that like just hated working out, like they just weren't like motivated when they got in that weight room? You don't have to say names or anything. Just curious if that happens.
It's fun. Oh, I mean, there's these guys are professional athletes, and
Right.
some of them are so gifted, and a lot of the times we have problems with like the skill guys, not wanting to receivers, DBs, like they're like, what the hell do I need to get
they don't
strong?
need to be
like,
huge.
They don't understand that you're basically trying to make them bulletproof. Like you're trying to make to where when you get hit in this position, you're a little bit stronger in that area, whether it's your knees or ankles, and just that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep your strength to where you can be explosive and you can do your job, but also you're trying to protect them. So
they can take the hits.
But a lot of them grew up not having to do much in the weight room, and they'll tell you
they were just the best from the start.
Tell you like this
They're
ain't doing nothing for me. Like I don't know.
Great.
I'm just here to make sure you do it.
So did you? That's awesome. So would you say that like the back end roster guys, like the guys that are really fighting for a spot, did you ever feel like those guys were more motivated when they got in the weight room, or was it like the same deal?
Yeah, when you're on the practice squad or you're just fighting, you're scratching those. A lot of those guys have been on 3 different teams in that year.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're just waiting to be told that, hey,
brought up
done.
to the 53.
Yeah.
like it's
Like
and
injury replacements and everything.
Those guys
like that.
want to make sure, like on the field and off the field, that they're doing everything they can to make that roster. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Was there anybody that you didn't think was gonna be such a monster in the weight room, and then you saw him and you're like, damn? Like I know these are professional athletes, but some guys are smaller, some guys are bigger, and at the same time, was there anybody where you were like, yo, this guy's really big, but I really expected him to push more than this?
oh, you're saying the opposite of what I thought you were saying. So you're saying like
Both. Like somebody that you didn't think was as strong as they were when you saw
Right.
them lifting the weights, and then vice versa. Somebody that looked like they'd be a
popcorn
monster,
muscles.
and then they were just like, obviously it's always going to be like a lot of weight, but like they just weren't where you expected them to be at in the weight room.
Right. And it's I always, as far as like the offensive linemen, they were usually like the strongest.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I've heard Parnell was like very
he was strong.
strong.
To me, Shatley was always consistently every year was a name that you thought of when
you thought of like weightlifting and
Yeah,
stuff.
he-
That is hilarious because I
Lower
don't
and
know.
upper.
I don't know if you remember, but like back in the day when Gus was still here, there's like this interview of him that they run all the time on 1010XL that they just think's funny. And he was asked, what is Tyler Shatley's greatest strength? And he was like, Tyler Shatley's greatest strength is his strength. So hey, now it makes sense. It makes sense.
No, he was definitely that guy. And Miles Jack is the one that, like, when he first got there, like, I don't know if it was necessarily that he didn't like working out or he just bumped heads with the head strength coach. Like,
Oh, okay.
but at the same time, like, Miles would just show up in the weight room without his shoes, and like he's like putting his shoes on as everybody else is doing their jump rope, and he's just like taking his time. And
That's great.
but the last year that I was there, he really, like, he came back in the offseason, like you could tell he was
Motivated.
working. And like he was trying to throw on more weight than he was supposed to, and like he was like constantly making the strength coach put more weight on, and it was interesting. And then like even this past off season, me and him would text back and forth, and he's like, yeah, I just got done working out, and he's got he just got done doing the heavy bag, and like and so that's one of the guys that I looked at and like, oh, how the hell is he so strong? So I think he was doing it on his own.
Oh, okay.
And because when he come in the weight room, you're like, man, this guy's gonna fall apart. He don't want to lift nothing.
Was Jalen Ramsay one of those, like you said, the skill players don't really care about lifting weights and stuff? Because Jalen Ramsay was one of the stars while you were there. Was he one of those guys that was just like I know I'm good. I don't really need to be doing anything out here?
Well, that and his dad's a strength and conditioning. They have their own facility and everything.
Right, yeah, because
And
they
so-
train in the off season together.
Right.
Yeah.
So he, like, obviously whatever the hell he did when he was a kid or whatever he was born with, he has. And that's one of those guys that's like, what are you gonna show me? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I can see that.
I can jump higher, I can run faster,
That's
like,
hilarious.
I'm explosive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, the number one question people wanted us to ask you is Jalen Ramsay a dick? That's like literally the only thing. Every time I ask somebody if there was anything they wanted me to bring up, that was everybody's question. Is Jalen actually a dick?
He definitely is one of those people that I would say loves attention. As far as like, and I kind of feel like he always thought he was better than the team itself. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure.
we'd break down after practice, and I would see him 5 feet away from everybody else with his hand out like this. Everybody else has their hand in, and
Oh,
he's like
yeah.
off to the side, like with his hand out, like so.
Yeah.
He was
But
more
it just
of a
the shit, just the, some of the stuff he did, like it just made you think like, okay, you think you're better than me. You think
Yeah.
you're better. And I remember, like right before he went to the Rams, he asked me, Sean, what happened to your leg?
After you'd been there for that long?
I had been around him for a couple years at that point. Story had been told to the team. Like, it was no...
Yeah, it had been aired on ESPN before that, right?
I don't know if that was, but I remember telling him, like, hey, I stepped on a IED, and he's like, what? And I'm like, this guy is really.
He's
He
more
really
of a
pays
me
no
than
attention
a
to
we.
me.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Jesus.
What an asshole, man. Good
Oh,
riddance.
I have a question about like.
But one of the most like
Gifted.
I've never seen anybody like it. Like the way he moves, the way like just
the best.
unbelievable.
He's built for it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great player.
Yeah, I have a question about because I've seen Hard Knocks and the one I saw, I think it was the Rams when Jeff Fisher was there. The strength and conditioning coach was one of the guys that told the players like during camp and preseason, like, "Hey, coach wants to talk to you for a second." Usually that means they're not going to make the final roster. Were you included in any of that, or was the strength coach doing that while you were there? Or
For us, it wasn't. It was. I want to say it was one of the scouts that would go do it, but
oh really?
but you had that one guy that if he was
It's
looking
always-
for you,
It's a bad news.
yeah.
Yeah, because I remember he was like, they're all working out. He would be like, "All right, well, hey, Chris, coach wants to talk to you for a second."
Which if they were in the weight room and, like I said, that person would come into the weight room and
Kind of.
pull them out. But yeah, it was always one of those things where, and then you didn't get to say bye, like because you
Yeah.
build like these relationships, especially in the off season. A lot of the players that you're working with in the off season are the ones that are going to be cut.
Right.
Like they're the ones
Busting their
trying to
ass.
show face, like, hey, I'm here, like, look, and so I remember, I want to say, he's with the Steelers now, long snapper, and as I'm saying this now, I'm forgetting his name, but I worked with him every day, in the off season, like every morning, at least 3 times a week, snapping balls, and like I would go, like, he'd come at a time where there wasn't a lot of guys coming in the off season, and so we'd go to the practice field, the indoor field, and we'd snap ball, and then got released.
Yeah. And you didn't get to say bye or nothing. You just was gone.
That was the one part of the job. Like I always thought, how would it be if I was in a college setting, where you got those guys at least a couple years.
Yeah, 4 years. Yeah.
That and that's the only downside about being in the NFL. It's a business, so.
Right.
Yeah.
What about Kelvin Smith, man? What happened there? Like, why did he quit on us like that? And obviously, we know all the stuff that came out afterwards. Do you think that had anything to do with it? Was it Tom Coughlin? Because I remember him and Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin called him and Jalen Ramsay out one off season for them not basically coming to OTAs and stuff. They were kind of doing their own workout regimen. It kind of felt like that rubbed him the wrong way because we never saw him again after that.
Yeah.
And the weirdest part is like he just got paid. Like he wasn't somebody that had already made a boatload of money. He worked on his rookie deal and then got 1 year on that nice contract, and that was it. And he just left. It was weird.
Like that was one. I think that moment when I found out that he wasn't coming back was one of the hardest moments for me, just because I had a pretty good relationship with Kelvin, and finding out the stuff later on about the situation, that the law enforcement was looking for him for it, but for me, Kelvin was just one of those guys. Like, if I'm going to battle, like that's who I want. Like he's gonna. I mean, he was one of the smallest linebackers in the NFL, and just
he was a beast.
Threw his body around, just a monster. But like I was saying before we started the show, with the My Cause, My Cleats. The last year he was there, I was on his cleats. My name, the 82nd Airborne logo, Purple Heart. Like
That's so awesome.
Yeah, that's
like
so
that,
good.
and so that like me and him had a pretty good bond, and I don't want to throw him under the bus or say anything bad about him because there was plenty of other guys in that locker room that were shitheads and would never thought that he would have been, in any kind of trouble or.
Yeah.
And it just hurt when he did leave like he did, and I don't know if he knew that was going to come out, and that's why he stepped away just to kind of
deal with that.
right, but. It's
How was your relationship with Tom Coughlin? Because I know he was the one that kind of gave you, your jump start in the NFL. So like, I know there's been a lot of rumors and reports that a lot of players didn't like him. Like I think Leonard Fournette, Ramsay were two of the players that I remember. So like, how was like the relationship with you and him?
I think obviously he, like you said, he gave me that opportunity, and like you could see like his love for the military and so his respect that he had, and I think that's because he's very military, like the way he presents himself, like
He's got a military mindset for
right.
sure.
I could see him as a general in
Yeah.
battle because every detail is thought out. I heard stories when like they first, when he first, the team came here and like he was like he was responsible for setting everything up, and he wanted somebody to tell him how many steps it was from the locker room to the practice field and. Like
just
that
the,
like
detailed.
stuff that he thinks about and has in detail, and it sucks too because like I remember being young and how successful the team was and kind of ran him off, and then brought him back and then ran him off again, all based on players not liking him, players this, players that like.
Did you see like?
But at the same time, in 10 years, it's the only year we've even been in the playoffs or had a winning season.
Right. I mean, most of our success came with him.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. So he like obviously did something correct.
Right.
And I don't know. He's always been part of this community with the J Fund and just a stand-up guy in my opinion.
Did you see any like things happen like behind the scenes with him and some players? Like, was there some button heads there?
Yeah, like did you see him go off on Jalen Ramsay when they said he came down from the booth after him and Doug Marrone got into that heated argument on the sideline?
If he did, I didn't see it, and
Okay.
I that's the thing. I never saw any of this like
all those reports that were coming out.
Yeah, and I want to say that some of the problems actually stem from Caldwell.
Okay.
Yeah.
As
Yeah, Jalen basically said there was 3 people that he couldn't stand, and he didn't say them by name, but it was pretty obvious that it was Tom Coughlin, Caldwell, and then Tony Khan were the 3 that he had like the biggest gripe with while he was here.
I mean,
You just weren't around when
Right,
all that stuff
and-
happened.
yeah, it's one of those things like
Reports are
right. It's
Always gonna
everything
be
just
there.
blown out of proportion. But when you're winning, and when
Right.
you're not,
Winning covers up everything.
yeah.
Covers up all controversies. So let's flash forward to today, all right? Because Josh Lambo actually had like some extremely nice words to say about you. He actually said that he doesn't think there's anybody on this earth that he's more proud to call a friend than you. He said that on record. So obviously you have a pretty good relationship with him then, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, so with the kicking thing, there's probably like 0% chance that wasn't true about him getting kicked by Urban Meyer.
And you don't have to answer.
You don't have to if you don't want to. But that's just like an interesting
Like,
topic to me.
Being around Lambeau as much as I, was, I can't see him just making up something. And why? And for what reason would he make anything up about it when he was already, like, to me, he's already done. Like, you know.
So
He's already come out and said, I'm wanting to move on and this and that, and I know he went up to Pittsburgh and was there for a week just in case their kicker couldn't go. But I think in his mind, like, he's ready to
move on.
Like, what else can I do now?
Right.
So, like, what would he gain for coming out with a story like that?
Right. So I just want to play devil's advocate here. I definitely believe that happened, but I'm just like saying it from like the skeptical fans' perspective. This is where I thought like it's possible that it's not true. Before they reported that, he actually did report it to the team before he even said anything to the media. That kind of kills this. But the idea that maybe he's mad that Urban Meyer cut him, and now he sees Urban Meyer's having all these bad news stories come out. So like just from the skeptical fan, like, you could think that maybe he threw that out there to kick Urban while he was down, no pun intended, and just get that last little slash before he left. Because for me, I was like hella shocked they cut him, because even if he didn't kick all year, like, this guy is literally like the third most accurate kicker in NFL history. So like I said it on the show all the time, I would have just left him on the practice squad and told him to get right and be ready for next year. But I'm just saying that from the skeptical fan perspective. That's the only scenario where I could have seen it not being true. But you're right. I mean, I definitely think he kicked him.
So,
and have you ever seen anything else like that? Like, have you ever seen somebody kick somebody or something? Like a coach mad?
The report said he was actually stretching.
Yeah,
when
for
he came
pregame.
up and, So I don't know if he like came up and like nudged him or what.
He called it a 5 out of 10.
I mean, that's pretty hard.
I know, right? and in my head when I read it, I was like, so you're telling me because you're mad at your kicker for missing kicks, you're going to call him a dipshit, destroy his confidence, kick him in the leg, which I know it's not likely, but like, dude, people get hurt doing dumber things. Like, we've seen reports of people missing games because they slipped in the shower. Like, that's happened. So to me, there was no benefit to kicking him. It was just absolute stupidity.
But at the same time, like, really, I mean, when he didn't get on that plane.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake.
And you never seen something like that either, right? Like,
No.
The coach always flies.
Not even from like a head coach, just like anybody, like a position player coach, like anything. You've never seen anything like that, right?
Dude, like,
you go together, you leave together.
Coach. Yeah. And then the video and
right.
God.
Absolute mess for sure. So let's talk about Urban's first mistake that he made as the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Tom got let go, correct? When Urban took over,
right?
And do you know, is that like common? So like the strength and conditioning assistants and everything, like, does that happen a lot when new regiments happen, or are they kind of excluded from like clearing the coaching staff?
Basically the strength and conditioning coach, like the head strength coach, a lot of times when a new coach comes in, he's got his guy.
Right.
So I think Maslinski was there forever. Like, so he had went with Gus Bradley and Doug Marrone and who was the other guy? Malarkey.
Yeah, I was
and like, so he had been there for like numerous coaches. So he has a great reputation, and he's got an awesome mind, as far as knowing sports science, and actually was one of the first head strength coaches in the NFL to start using the system that I ran while I was there, the catapult system, which is the GPS. And so he was like one of the first ones to start using that and looking at the data and actually implementing it and trying to tell the head strength coach or the head coach like, hey, I would back off on this person. I would do this and then let the head coach make the decision if they're actually gonna take some reps off or not.
Right. That's pretty cool. Shit.
But that's what I did for a majority of the time I was there, was running that system and uploading the data. And
okay.
So with Chris Doyle though, like hiring him, obviously there was a ton of controversy around him from day one. But let's just say hypothetically that this guy's the number one strength coach. Like, compare the drop off from being like a top strength coach to like an average strength coach. Like, how much of a difference in performance and execution do you think you would get there? Or do you think everybody has like very similar routines where like most people are kind of doing the same type of workouts or individualizing workouts for people? Do you think there's a major difference? I know this is kind of a tough question.
Doyle, was like one of the highest paid strength coaches when he was at the college level, if not the highest. So he was respected, in the strength and conditioning world. Like, he was one of those guys. Like,
right.
he knew what he was doing. So, I mean, if you look across the board, a lot of people are doing the same stuff. Like,
okay.
So
I'm just wondering, like, in his mind, if he thought about the controversy and he was like, this is just going to be worth it because this guy is so good, or if it was probably more of a, like, this is my buddy, Because that does go on in the NFL.
Like, I don't know what their relationship was either.
Right.
I don't know if it was just like, hey, this guy's available because he's no longer at Iowa. Mm-hmm. But I don't know the actual relationship between the two. Maybe they did have some.
It was small. It wasn't.
I know
that
the
much.
new head strength coach but Doyle was not going to be the head strength coach.
Oh, he wasn't.
Jags.
Oh, I did not know that. He was
like,
I thought he was
the head over basically the athletic trainers and the strength and conditioning coaches.
Okay.
So he was like the head of sports performance.
You're right. That's right. They did announce him as sports performance.
And Slagle, which was with Urban Meyer at Ohio State. So that was Urban Meyer's guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of those.
He probably won't be there next year.
All right, Sean, we just have a few more questions before you, and then we'll let you get out of here. What was your most memorable moment with the Jaguars? Good, bad, ugly, whatever it was.
Most memorable.
First thing to shoot your mind.
Was when we won at Pittsburgh in the playoff game in 2017. Came back home. And then we got off, like, usually they would pull the buses right in front of the stadium. We'd get out, everybody jump in their cars and go home from a away game. Well, they pulled us to the other side, like the loading dock area, and we walked through the tunnel onto the field, and there was thousands of fans waiting for us just to, welcome us home, and like everybody's cheering, and like that feeling was like.
That's the same night that the famous "We Gonna Win That Bitch" came out, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, like, how was it being a part of that season, man? Because I was like,
that was one of the first year there.
I know, like so your first year, you're the good luck charm, man.
So that was the high road right there.
Yeah, you started high, man. So how was it just being like there for that whole season, like?
Like, as you're going through it, like, and it wasn't like we were dominant on both sides of the ball.
Right. Coming into the year, we had a lot of doubters.
Oh.
Especially, like, I don't know if you remember, but, like, there was a lot of Blake Bortles controversy before that season, and, like, Chad Henne got a start in a preseason game, and it made it look like it was, like, a competition, and there was a lot of controversy whether Blake would be able to pan out that year or not.
Yeah.
What was it like internally?
Fournette played out of his mind.
Yep.
Like he was jumping over damn.
Hurling people.
Like I don't know how many touchdowns he had jumping over just the Steelers alone.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but it was just like as you're going through it, like the season is just it's almost like Groundhog Day, and every week to week is just it feels like the same thing. Like it's not as a player it may change because you're obviously scheming, to the strengths and weaknesses of the other team, but like for us it felt like the same. But then when you got to about 3/4 through the season, and I mean, look at the first game of the season was against the Texans, and I think that was a 10-sack
Yep, it was.
game. Like from that game on, like you knew you had something special in the defense. Like the
Saxonville crew.
But that it was so fun. Like I remember going to Pittsburgh and just running off the field, carrying a couple helmets off. Like there's a picture of me running behind. What the hell is defensive lineman Malik Jackson. I was running behind him, and I looked like the Michelin Man. Like I was so bundled up because it was so cold in Pittsburgh. And then the Buffalo game here.
That was probably
the
awesome
field goal game.
Oh yeah, Nathan Peterman came.
What was that? 10-9.
10-3. They didn't score a touchdown.
Oh, I thought maybe. Oh yeah, 10. Yeah, but that game. And like seeing Tyrod Taylor like in the room to get they were checking for concussion, whatever. Like when the game ended, I saw him as we're going into our locker room, and and then being up in Foxborough.
I bet that was cold too.
And like
you were like
first half
freezing,
just like unbelievably just dominating them, like, and then the second half,
the GOAT came.
Well,
a couple bad calls,
the bad.
Let's
calls.
not even get into the Miles Jack down thing. Jesus.
that we couldn't complete a pass. It seemed like.
Yeah, no kidding. So I heard a story recently. There was a story about a player that wanted to join the military before he came into the NFL, and he was telling you a little bit about it. Would you mind telling that story for us? You don't have to say who it was, but just what happened.
I'm trying to remember what I think it was. Was that 2000? It was either 2014, 2017, because I know Anger was there still. So it may have been that first year I was there, but I remember talking to this guy. He was crazy. Like this guy was out of his mind, crazy. And me and him are sitting there talking about the military, and he's like, "Yeah, I was gonna join the military, so I started playing, Call of Duty, trying to get prepared for the military, and." But before he had told me that, he was like, "Yeah, I had too many traffic tickets." I was like,
"Oh my god!"
So when he said that, then he led into how he was trying to play Call of Duty to get ready for basic training, and so I'm sitting there standing next to Brian Anger, and I looked over at Anger, and I'm like, "Man, I was going to be in the NFL, I was training, so I started playing Madden." And, and he just started busting out laughing.
That's great, man. That's a awesome. Perfect story. So I got to ask, man, why'd you walk away from it? Because you left on your own. They didn't let you go. You were like, "I'm out of here."
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe they didn't retain me with the new staff. I mean, even if they didn't keep me as a strength and conditioning coach, they would have found something for me in the building.
Right.
Just, I don't know if I was a mascot or what, but for me, like I just got my master's degree, just got my strength certification, and I started thinking long and hard. And I'm like, man, I spent so much time in the military where I wasn't able to be around my kids, wasn't able to take time off and go do stuff with them and do stuff as a family, and here I am 4 years in as a strength coach, and same thing. Like,
Right.
so for me, it was more like, is this salary really worth?
The grind.
Because when you're on the bottom, you're not making much anyways. So
Right.
unless you get up there, but is it really worth, after spending all that time in the military, being injured, transitioning, where didn't really get to spend time with the kids, and is it really worth it to be away from them, and then also like never having time to myself, like, and so I just decided, I want to go try something else. I'm ready to go, and so I actually went to go work for a friend of mine that owns Jack's Refrigeration, Mark Lowry, and so he owns Jack's Refrigeration and Vida de Luis Tequila, and so I did a little bit of both, but most of my time was spent sitting behind a desk, and I never did that before, and so like my mental health started diminishing. Like, I just was really unhappy. Like, I'm more like, I need to be like doing something. I need to see results, and I was at that job. I was really just behind the computer, and that was it. So,
Right.
And I love doing the tequila thing, just getting out, talking to bartenders, and trying to push the brand, but it wasn't at a point where they could pay me just to do that. So
Right.
I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try something else. So.
Yeah, I got you. So I just wanted to throw this out there because you said they would have got you a job because you felt like you were like the mascot, right? So you said. So I just want to throw this out there. I think that I agree. I think they definitely would have found a job for you if they would have moved you. But I think your greatest value to the team, especially from their perspective, is honestly your life experience. Like, they have young guys coming in and out of here. So I don't really look at it that way. I look at it as like, hey, they wanted somebody that can help people mature. Like, because they see you've had great life experience. You've made it in this world. You know what it's like to be an adult. But these guys are young. You know what I'm saying? Like, they come in, they want to clown around all the time. So I think that it was really a maturity standpoint where you brought the greatest value, as well as the strength and conditioning skills and everything. But I just think that that's what they looked at, because even Tom Coughlin said in an interview when they asked about hiring you, he was just like, I mean, he's great for the guys. Like, so I that's how I look at that. But what's next for you, man? I mean, what are you up to now? What's your plans for the future?
So like I said, after I was sitting behind that desk, I started. A good friend of mine owns Bullseye Pressure Washing, Stephen Davis, and I never even thought about owning my own business or doing anything. I started talking to him, and I'm like, he had this extra rig for sale. He was like, "Hey, you can have it." And I figured the amount of money that pressure washing rig cost, even if I didn't want to do it full time, I could use it for the house or
Right.
friends, family, whatever. And I started doing it, and just immediately, it was something that, like, I get a lot of pleasure out of, because when you go, you see how it looks before, and then you see the results immediately. Mm-hmm. And then you see your work and your hard work going into it. And like, to me, I was doing the job behind the desk and then doing this on the weekends. So I was working
nonstop.
And it got to the point where I was making more money doing that on the side than I was 10 hours a day behind the desk. Yeah. And I didn't even have, like, at the time, like, I didn't have a business name or nothing. And then all of a sudden, like, I'm sitting there one day, and I just thought a leg up.
That's a perfect
Like,
name.
it is.
That really is.
You got a leg up on the competition, but it just like one of those things like that just hit like it. No thought came into it. Nothing like
It was natural.
It was just like yeah. And then talked to Wounded Warrior Project and told them my vision for a logo, and they put like 10 things together, and I got to like choose it.
That's awesome.
And then like now, like looking at it now, it's like it makes complete sense. Like you got the military emblem look to it. So you got the cross rifles, but you got the instead of cross rifles, you got the pressure washer and the prosthetic. And I feel like that's something that is going to stick in people's head, especially when I get the. I'm supposed to get the truck and trailer wrapped mid-January, and to where when people see that thing rolling down the street in OD green digital camo and they see that logo, like that's just like something that stands out. Like there's a million different pressure washers in Florida, but how many can you remember? But like today, went out today. My son's on Christmas vacation and got to take him out with me, and he was helping me all day today.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Like I have that luxury now. Like however much money I want to make is depending on like how many jobs I can get, and the better I do, the more work I do, the more referrals and references. It's just like to me, like I love it because it's my brand. It's what I'm gonna be known for. Hopefully, when you look up pressure washing, you'll see a leg up pressure washing in the top 10 soon. But
yeah, everybody look out. If you need any pressure washing done, give Sean a call, and he'll give you a leg up. You got anything else for Sean?
No,
Max?
man, you're just a total badass, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
man.
thank you
It's
so much.
really
You're
nice
a friend
meeting
of the
you.
show. You can come on anytime you want to talk football with us.
Oh, yeah.
I hope everybody out there enjoyed this. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share. All right, everybody, have a great night. We're out of here. Peace.